Hey everyone, happy Sunday night. Just coming to you to give you a quick update, just some things that I felt that I had to tell you about, some things that have been kind of weighing on me lately. And I debated whether or not to do this live. I've kind of gone back and forth on it a few times, but something I saw tonight really spoke to me and convinced me that I needed to do it. So, for all of you who have questions about religious exemptions, I know a lot of people have reached out to us over the past couple of months asking for religious and medical exemptions, asking for help with that, whether it's for school, whether it's for college. We are here to help. We The Patriots USA has been helping people all across the country, and we've been doing that largely for free. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. So there's a lot of organizations out there, and I'm not here to badmouth any organizations, which is why you'll notice I will not name any organizations in this broadcast. I'm not going to call anyone out by name because I don't believe in doing that. I want to keep this professional, but I do have some concerns. So there are a lot of organizations out there that are charging people to do this. They're making a business off of this. Some I would even categorize as grifting people in order to help them with their religious or medical exemptions. I think that's very wrong. I do not think this should be a moneymaker. We are a nonprofit organization. When we help someone to guide them in writing a religious exemption, when we connect them with an attorney who can guide them in that, we do not charge anything. We are the only organization that I know of nationwide that does not charge anything for that. If there is another one, please let me know. Please correct me. But we are the only organization that I know of that is doing this completely free. So whether it's the broadcasts like this that we do, or whether it's helping people, giving people a private consultation, we do not take any money for that. And again, that's not to pat ourselves on the back, but it's because just to let you know, we're doing this because we believe it's the right thing to do. We need to help people. People are in crisis right now. They are scrambling. They're at risk of losing their livelihoods. They're at risk of losing their education, that they've worked so hard to obtain. Some of the most elite schools in the country they've worked to get into, and now they're at risk of losing all of that. And we just don't think it would be right to take money for that. Now, that being said, obviously, if it does come to a point where somebody needs to take legal action, if their exemption is denied, which does happen, don't let anybody tell you that they're 100% success. They never, get people denied, or they almost never get people denied. It's case by case, and it's up to each school. It doesn't matter what you write. Some places are going to deny you. Some people are going to give you the exemption. There's no magic formula. There's no magic template that people are putting out there that's going to get you guaranteed success or near guaranteed success. That's a load of bull. If somebody's telling you that, they're lying to you. There is no one template. And on the subject of templates, I want to caution people against using templates. That's a very, very, very bad idea. Anyone who's using templates is putting at risk not only their own religious exemption, not only their own hope of getting a religious exemption, but many, many, many thousands, if not millions of people across the country. Because if they see the same template being circulated again and again and again and again, they're going to start denying these, and they're going to use it against people in court. So if someone has to take legal action, if their exemption is denied, the lawyers on the other side are going to get a hold of that and say, look, they were just using a form. They were using a template. This template being circulated by such and such organization. They're all using the same one. That's not a sincere religious belief. See, this is the problem when you have non-attorneys advising people and guiding people in this. People that really don't know the law, that don't know what it's like to get involved in litigation. They just have no clue, and they're misguiding people. And so I've seen people out there say, well, come to us. You don't need, they've got attorneys. We the Patriots. You don't need attorneys. You don't need attorneys. Come to us. Well, yeah, you don't need attorneys. But if your exemption is denied, or if you find yourself in court a few years from now, you're going to be really, 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 really hoping, wishing that you had them on your side. And furthermore, why wouldn't you come to an organization that has attorneys when we're doing it for free? We're not charging anyone. So why would you choose someone who's not trained in the law, who has no experience, over a team of people that are and who aren't charging you? The only time we talk about charging people, and it's not even us, it's the attorneys that we retain, our counsel that we retain, is if we have to go into court. Again, if an exemption is denied and then we have to initiate litigation, Well, then at that point, yes, we'll talk about an engagement letter and the attorneys will work that out with the client. And then, even then, We the Patriots USA does not charge you. We the Patriots USA, as a matter of fact, if it comes to that, does everything in our power to make a donation toward your legal expenses. So that is our mission. Not only do we try to help you get the exemptions for free, but then if in the event that you're denied, which does happen sometimes, we then connect you with an attorney and then we make a donation toward your legal expenses. So we actually pay you to bring the lawsuit. We can't do that for every single lawsuit, obviously, across the country because, we're not flush with money. We are in great need of donations so that we can support more people in that. But that's our mission, is to get this really gigantic legal fund, not for ourselves, but so that when we bring cases, we can donate. So Kendall Cody, for instance, who's the amazing Yale student, she now is a volunteer for us. She works as a public relations and fundraising coordinator for We the Patriots USA. She's the Yale student that was on Fox News. We were able to help her get an exemption and to overturn Yale's policy. Well, guess what? We paid 50% of her legal expenses, okay? We donated. So not only did we help her get an exemption for free, but then we donated 50% because at one point it was looking like we were going to have to go into court. We gave a donation of 50% of her legal expenses. That's the difference between us and everyone else, all right? Everyone else is asking you for money. We're looking to see ways we can give you money to bring these lawsuits if you have to. We are a charitable organization. We're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of defending freedom. We're in the business of protecting your rights and helping people. I just want to come on again. It wasn't to badmouth any specific organization, which is why I'm very careful. I did not mention any specific individual or organization, but I want you to be very, very careful of schemes out there, of grifters who are trying to charge you money to do something that really we're here to do for free. And not only for free, but to support you and give you money if that's the case. So be very, very careful about some of this advice. I've seen a lot of advice also about, explain, put in all the scripture, all the church teaching, the catechism, explain every detail about your religious exemption. My personal feeling, and this is nothing I'm saying in this broadcast is official legal advice because I don't represent any of you, but I do just want to say from a personal standpoint, I don't believe that's wise. I believe less is more. Some people say, well, you only get one shot. That's it. And if you don't put it all in there, you're going to lose. That's not actually true. The reasonable accommodation process under Title VII requires an interactive dialogue between the employer and the employee. There's no reason to believe it should be any different at a university or college. So they can ask for more information, but it's not supposed to be a one-shot deal, one and done. And if it is, well, then we'll challenge it legally if we have to. There's legal recourse, but it's not a one and done. You don't have to, if they haven't asked you for it, obviously, if they've asked, can you give us some specifics about your legal belief? They have a form and they want some details. You can give them some details, but, there's something we tell witnesses as attorneys when we're prepping witnesses. We tell them, only answer the question you've been asked. Okay. And that's a very, very important piece of advice. Okay. If you've only been asked A, don't give them B and C and D and E until they ask you for that. Obviously, you have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, but you don't have to tell additional information that you weren't asked to give. You weren't asked to volunteer information. Don't start volunteering information that you weren't asked for. But I see people out there that are telling them, oh, yes, tell them every single basis you have, every single, possible basis you could have in your religion and every theory and no, everyone has their own unique, sincerely held religious beliefs, which is, again, why we don't like using templates. Everybody has their own beliefs. Okay, use your own words, speak from your own heart. Do not start going into all these things and using these forms and thinking you have to say it this way. If you use these particular words, it's going to work in every case. Because what works for Syracuse might not work for Yale. And what works for Yale might not work for Boston College. So on and so on and so forth. And actually, what worked for one person at Boston College may not work for another person at Boston College. Because guess what? They don't always have the same person reviewing these exemptions. You have different people reviewing the exemptions at different times. There's no magic formula, folks. There's no magic formula. All right. But all I want you to know is that we are here to help. We are not here to gouge you. We are not here to profit off you. We are here to help you. WeThePatriotsUSA.org. We've launched our Commit to 10 campaign, which we're asking everyone who supports our work, who believes in what we're doing, to, if they could, to donate so that we can put it in that legal fund. Again, not for ourselves, not so we can have any kind of profit. We're nonprofit, but so that we can put it in our legal fund. So that if we do have to bring cases, we can donate to those people. We can't do this without your help. So $10 a month so that we have a reliable, predictable stream of income, and then tell 10 people. Everyone who sees this, tell 10 people to please do the same. Please give these guys $10 a month. They're working for your rights. They're defending your rights. They have an attorney network throughout the country, and they want to help you. They want to be able to support people. They want to be able to help fund this litigation, because I think it's very, very important. I think, unfortunately, in many cases, it's going to come down to litigation. In many cases, these employers and these schools are going to say, too bad, we're just not giving the exemption. We don't care. Bring on the lawsuit. And so at that point, we have to be prepared to defend people's rights. And we're going to do that everywhere and anywhere that we can. All right. Let's see if I have a couple of questions. Let me just say. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Daniela. Nice to see you, by the way. It's my friend Daniela from New York. Yeah, panic sets in, calm, critical thinking goes out the window. Exactly. People just, they want to rush for any easy solution, right? They're not thinking about this rationally and about you. I'm always thinking 5-10 steps down the road, because as an attorney, you have to do that. I'm always thinking, what if this ends up in court? How is this going to look? People who are giving a lot of the advice right now, and they shouldn't be giving advice either. Okay, people shouldn't be giving legal advice who aren't attorneys. And even people who are attorneys, again, you don't give legal advice to non-clients, which I make it very clear. None of this should be taken as legal advice. If you want legal advice, speak to an attorney who's representing you, who you've engaged to represent you in your particular situation. All right, don't just take what I say on these broadcasts or anything else. All right, but we can connect you with attorneys who can represent you if you need that. Okay. Danielle is asking again, how can you share it publicly? This should be on our public Twitter page, at We The Patriots US, as well as our public Facebook page, which is We The Patriots USA. That is a public Facebook page. So you should be able to share that publicly from there. Terrible, Katy. Healthcare systems, Milwaukee, announcing mandates for employees. Funny how last year we were heroes, now we're going to lose our job. From heroes to zeros is what I'm saying, the memes on Facebook. This is absolutely abhorrent, what is being done to these frontline workers. Yes, they were the heroes. They are the heroes still, and now they're being treated like garbage. Okay, and it's absolutely a disgrace what's going on right now, and we need to fight back against that. And we are here for you, Katy. If you need help with an exemption, we are here for you. We're here to help you. You do have rights under the law. If you have a legitimate medical condition, a disability that prevents you from getting it, we can help with that. And if you have a legitimate, sincerely held religious objection, we can help with that. And we are more than happy to do so. Someone else is saying they have till September 1st to get the jab. They didn't accept your religious exemption, as it did apply to ADA. Only thing accepted in losing a job. Okay. So it sounds like you're saying, I'm not entirely clear, but they're only allowing ADA medical exemptions. They're not allowing religious exemptions. That's not legal. So please reach out to us. info@wethepatriotsusa.org is the email. info@wethepatriotsusa.org. We have a team of people that's working to respond to this as quickly as possible. We respond to all these emails. I certainly can't keep up with it all myself. I have other obligations, so I cannot, personally answer every email. But we do have other people that help. Please be patient, because we are getting inundated, as you can imagine, with requests, hundreds every week across the country reaching out to us. So please do, definitely reach out to us. Advice for getting exemption for my college-age daughter who has an internship at Disney in Orlando. Yes, they are now mandating all employees and probably interns as well. Again, I cannot give you specific legal advice, but employees certainly have a right to request a religious accommodation. Interns, volunteers, that's less clear, depending on the state, and would have to connect you with an attorney in Florida who specializes in Florida law too, because it might not just be federal law. Obviously, it's not just federal law, it's state law at play as well. And I, off the top of my head, don't know all the intricacies of Florida law. So I would connect you with a Florida attorney. And again, reach out to us, info@wethepatriotsusa.org, and see if there's something that she can do. Just know that interns and volunteers generally have less rights Not always, again, depending on the situation, depending on the particular state law. There were some additional protections actually added in Connecticut just a couple of years ago for interns, but they generally have less rights across the country. Nationwide, they generally have less rights than an employee does, so that's going to be harder to fight. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Grace is talking about the VA. Yes, we've had several VA employees reach out to us. Yeah, the EUA issue, that's a tricky one. It's not as cut and dry as you might think. A lot of people think that just because it's emergency use authorized, it can't be mandated. That's actually not true. If you look at a blog that I wrote, it's actually on the Connecticut Freedom Alliance blog, but I've shared it everywhere, including We The Patriots. It's called A Jab for a Job. And you can find it at ctfreedomalliance.org and just click on blog. I also wrote a brand new post just the other day called Lies and Liability. Read that one as well. Again, about employer mandates. So read the last couple of blog posts I wrote that addresses it. I'm not going to get into all of it here, but it's not necessarily what people are telling you online. Again, a lot of people speaking are not attorneys. They don't really understand the law. It's not to make, I'm an attorney. It's not to say that we're better than other people. But again, we have specialized training, years of experience. People have come out of the woodwork with COVID and all of a sudden are spouting off all these facts about the law as if they're attorneys, and they're telling people things that I see, and I'm cringing at some of this because I'm like, oh, that's wrong. If you do that, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get fired, and no, you're not going to get unemployment, and no, you're not going to be able to challenge it. You're going to lose in court. That is very bad advice. I'm seeing that happen over and over and over again. People that are very popular, they have large followings on Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and people love them, and they think that everything they're saying is correct, and it's actually not. And again, it's cringeworthy, some of it. Their heart's in the right place, a lot of these people. I'm not saying they're purposely trying to lead people down the road to perdition or something. They're trying to help people, but they just don't understand the law. They don't understand. They start throwing out Title VII and HIPAA and all this other stuff, and they don't really even understand what they're talking about because they've never actually read the law, or if they have read it, they don't really understand what they're reading because they think it means one thing, it actually means another. The law is not actually that clear very often, which is why you do have to go to law school to learn it, because it's not. It sounds like it means one thing a lot of times, and it actually means a whole other thing. And because there's words in there that you don't realize have a certain meaning, a contextual meaning. There's case law that's developed around certain statutes and regulations, or has interpreted, I should say, certain federal statutes and regulations, and the courts have interpreted them differently than what people think they mean. You can't just read them a plain reading and say, well, that's my interpretation, therefore that's what the law says. No. The courts interpret the laws. They guide us. We are bound as attorneys to follow that precedent, and to, we make our legal arguments, but it's based off the precedent, how the courts have interpreted it. We just don't make up our own interpretation unless something's novel and it's never been interpreted by a court before. Well, then, we make our suggestions, and then hopefully the court agrees with us. But that's the way it works. You don't just willy-nilly just decide this is what it means, despite the fact that I have half a dozen cases or a couple of dozen cases that say otherwise. You have to be smart about that. So again, people that don't know the case law, they're just reading the statutes and regulations and just going by that and just throwing out what all the courts have said. But that's very, very important, because the courts are going to look at what the courts have said, especially when you talk about higher level courts like the Supreme Court or a higher level circuit court. If we're at a district court, they're going to look at what the other courts have said. They're not just going to just read the statute as it is in a vacuum and say, oh, yeah, that's what it means. No, they're going to look at what all the other courts have said when they've interpreted that statute, especially the higher courts. They're bound by that interpretation. That's authority over them. So you have to know the cases. You can't just read the law. You have to know the case law too. All right. And this is what people don't understand. They just think, oh, just read the statute and we make up our own interpretation. That's not the way the justice system works. You have to go by what the courts have said previously. If you don't, you're going to get your case thrown out. So, I mean, people don't like that. Well, that's not America. That's not how it should work. Well, that's how it does work, dude. I'm sorry. I mean, you might not like it, but that's just how it works. And if you go in, you're going to seem like you don't know what you're talking about, and you're going to have your case dismissed very quickly if you don't have that background and you're not using cases and precedent, and you're not respecting the court's precedent. You have to respect the court. You have to respect the precedent that's come down here. And if you disagree with it, you can show how, maybe it should be changed, or you distinguish your facts in a respectful fashion. You just distinguish your facts from the facts of those previous cases. That's what you do. You don't just go in and say, well, no, this is my interpretation and you have to agree with me. That's not how it works, and it's not going to work. So I don't see any other new comments that I haven't addressed that I can address right here. I think that there's a lot of, oh, wait, maybe I'm missing a couple. I didn't scroll all the way. Oh, someone is asking about the test. Here's the problem. You're probably not going to win the battle over the testing. Employers have been mandating, this is just my opinion, again, not legal advice, but employers have been mandating medical exams, tests, everything for decades. Think about it. Drug tests. How many employers require a drug test in order to work somewhere? Tons. They can even take hair samples. They can even take blood samples. How many employers require a physical as a part of a fitness for duty? So that, puts you through a whole physical examination, forcing you to go to a doctor and have yourself examined and have all kinds of tests run on you. That's standard, and that's been going on for decades. So again, there's precedent there for that. So especially in a global pandemic, and I know people have different opinions as to how serious and what the data is. That's not going to do you any favors trying to argue that it's not a serious health threat. That's not really going to work. All right, acknowledging, assuming that there is a serious health threat here, then you have to say, well, because most of the public health authorities are saying it's a serious health threat. Whether you agree with that or not, I'm not saying I agree with it in all instances either, but most of the authorities are saying that. So, assuming that to be true, just for a moment, assuming that it is a threat, then an employer would have a right to test as a reasonable alternative in most cases. And again, there's going to be a little sympathy because there's a line out the door and around the street, around the corner, okay, of people who have been denied exemptions and who have no other option. Okay, are being told, no, you get the shot or you're fired, period. No exemptions. All right, and then you come in complaining, or not you, but somebody else comes in complaining, well, it's not good enough. They let me keep my job and they let me get the exemption, but now they say I have to have testing. So I want to challenge, or I have to wear a mask. So I want to challenge that too. I'm still not satisfied that it's exempted from the shot. Now I want I want you to, I want to be able to go there with absolutely no protection in place. Well, again, since all the public health authorities are saying that this is a major threat and that you're posing a major threat in the workplace if you walk in there with no mask and no testing, it's going to be a very, very hard argument, nearly impossible for you to win that argument. Okay, so right now, I think we just have to focus on getting people exemptions. The people who are upset and aren't satisfied with exemptions, but now also want to be mask-free and test-free, I think you're going to be running into a losing argument there. Because again, there's so many people in worse situations than you that aren't even getting the exemptions, and now you're not satisfied with the exemption. You want it to be completely like it was before. I mean, I do too, and I think most of us do. But again, the powers that be aren't seeing it that way. They're saying we're in a different world now. We can't go back to that. So one battle at a time. Let's get everybody their exemptions first, so they don't have to be injected with something against their will, against their religious beliefs, against their medical advice, their medical history. Let's try to get everybody exemptions first, and then we can look at the grand scheme of testing and masks and everything else in the country. But by and large, from what I've seen anyway, courts have upheld mask mandates in the workplace and testing in the workplace. They haven't said that that's illegal or that's unreasonable. They see that as a reasonable accommodation. That's from what I've seen. Again, if you have something different, if you can, prove me wrong, show me the cases. But I haven't seen those. I haven't seen cases, en masse coming out saying that, testing is unreasonable. Employers can't test employees and employers can't mask employees. I have not seen that coming out from the courts. Quite the opposite. So again, I don't feel that that's a viable option. Another VA employee, Shana, please, or Shania, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I do apologize. Has he requested an exemption? If he has and been denied, please reach out to us. If he has not, then he needs, that's generally what you should do if you have a sincerely held religious belief, objection to it, or if you have a medical reason and you've been advised by a healthcare provider not to receive it. And if either one of those circumstances applies, that's when you request the exemption. And then if you're denied, come to us, WeThePatriotsUSA.org, info@WeThePatriotsUSA.org. We're here to help. Again, be patient. We'll get to you as quickly as possible. We're getting flooded with requests. All right, anyone else? Are there lawyers, Renee's asking, are there lawyers for every state to help with this? Well, I'm sure there's lawyers in every state helping. We do not have lawyers in every single state yet. We're working on that. That's our ultimate goal, is to have local counsel in every single state. We do have several states covered, and we're getting more every day. But that is the goal. That is the goal. So if you need help in a particular state, reach out. Even if we don't have an attorney, very often we're able to find one through our networks, through calling around and contacting the attorneys we do know in that general geographic region. We're often able to find one, even if we don't have one listed on our referral network. So it's definitely worth giving us a call. Again, someone's asking, who can I email? info@wethepatriotsusa.org, info@wethepatriotsusa.org. This is a good question. Katie's asking another great question, Katie. Thank you. Who will the employer or the employee be responsible for the testing costs? That depends on the employer. Some employers are covering it. Some employers are not. I do not know, whether or not, any one particular employer, so if you're asking me about your employer, I don't know. In some cases, there's unions. So if there's a union, there'd probably be an issue with forcing the employee to pay for it. If it's a non-union, a private organization, and you've refused to get the shot, they could probably request it, but then you could argue, well, that's, an undue burden on me because of my religious belief or my disability, as the case may be. You're imposing an additional cost on me. Sometimes, some of the testing may, if it may be subsidized, if there's some sort of, federal money that's been given or state money. I don't know every single situation. You'd have to ask, but very good question. All right. Laura says, COVID is real. I have it. I don't think I said it wasn't real. So please don't take anything in this to mean that it's not, because I never said that. I simply said that there may be some data that I don't agree with, but I did not say that it does not exist. What is an exemption versus an accommodation? I'm using those interchangeably. I mean, under the law, usually the words reasonable accommodation are asked. You can request an accommodation, but the accommodation may be the exemption. Now, so in this particular case, the accommodation most people are asking for is an exemption from the mandate. So an exemption is just a form of an accommodation. My employer gives option to show proof of vaccination to not wear masks, religious exemption. Again, if you haven't been mandated, there really wouldn't be a religious exemption there. If you're saying you have a religious objection to mask wearing, again, is that if that's your sincerely held religious objection and you've held that your whole life, that you're against wearing masks, you can prove that or something, then, by all means, you can ask for that. I think in most cases that's not the case. And that's the problem people are running into with trying to request religious exemption for masks, because it's not being seen as sincere, because it's something that just came up now. All of a sudden, now that masks are mandated, people have religious objections. It's not like a lifelong belief they've held against something like abortion, for instance. So the use of aborted fetal matter and the testing and production of these shots, that's, very sincere to have an objection, because Christians, Catholics have had objections to, and other religions have had objections to abortions for centuries. This is not like a new thing they're just coming up with. But I think in the case of the mask, a lot of, it may be, in a lot of cases, it may be viewed, with, a little bit of a raised eyebrow that, is this really sincere? I'm not saying it's not, but in some cases, I think that's going to be a harder argument to make. Again, I just covered this, David. Employers have been mandating medical treatments as a condition of employment, or at least medical tests as a condition of employment. And as far as vaccinations, immunizations, healthcare employers have been doing that for, again, decades, with flu shot mandates and other shots, tuberculosis, all these other things. That's to TB test before you can become a nurse. That's been going on for decades and decades and decades. This is not something new. So people say that this is not something a business could ever do. They're just not thinking. They're thinking just with respect to COVID. They're not looking at the big picture and thinking, oh, wait, this has been done for other things before, like flu. This has been done for drug tests, and this has been done for fitness for duty for certain jobs. They have mandated medical exams and medical tests. And even vaccines before. That has been mandated in certain industries. So there is precedent for it. It's not something completely new that's never been done before. But again, people, as Daniela said earlier, people get so upset and so worried, and their logic goes out the window. They forget about this. They just get so fired up and say, you can't do this. The law says you can't do it. Well, show me the law that says you can't do that. Show me a law that says you're not allowed to require testing. Show me a statute that says there shall be no testing for any virus in the workplace, if that is illegal. I'm not aware of it. If you can find it, show it to me. The same with, in general, these people who say, I should be exempted, I should not be segregated in the workplace, shouldn't be treated any differently, vaxxed versus unvaxxed. Well, again, vaccination status is not listed as a protected class, to my knowledge, in any discrimination statute, either in state or federal law. I'm not aware of any state, and certainly not in federal law, where vaccination status is a protected class. Should it be? Yeah, I think so. Good luck. Harmeet Dillon tweeted about that yesterday in response to something Kristi Noem had put out, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Even in Congress, if we have a supermajority of Republicans, when you have people like Mitch McConnell urging everybody to roll up their sleeve, I don't think that would help us. I do not think you're getting vaccination status as a protected class of a federal law. Maybe in a couple of these really conservative states that really value religious liberty, it's possible. Yeah. So a lot of people in here with other questions. I can't answer all of them. I do want to address this. Because Nellie mentioned America's Frontline Doctors. So it's aflds.org. I'm going to plug them because we have worked with them and we have great respect for that organization. So just to be clear, that was not an organization I was referring to earlier that might be doing things not for the right reasons. I have great respect for Dr. Simone Gold and America's Frontline Doctors. They're doing great work. I urge everybody to support them and to donate to them as well, because they are taking on some major lawsuits, and I think they are going to be successful with some of these. I think they've got a great legal team. Lee Dundas, yep, she's one of the attorneys on their Legal Eagle Dream Team. They're doing just amazing work, and I encourage everybody to support them as well. So that's pretty much it. I don't really have time to answer every single one of the questions or comments, and I know there'll be more after I leave, and I want to keep this to about a half an hour, actually less than that. We're over that now, which always happens. This is a very, very, very hot topic right now. Obviously, we want to help people. Please reach out to us if you need help. There's no one size fits all. A lot of people, they're going on these webinars or they're going on these websites and filling out a form and getting a template and paying a certain amount of money. I mean, I'm just worried about people being taken advantage of and people getting, most of all, people getting bad advice. Hey, if you want to give someone 50 or 100 or 500 or whatever, however many dollars they're charging, you want to give people money, that's your money. You can do what you want with it. It's not for me to say you can't. But what I'm worried about is if you give them that money and then you're getting bad advice and you're doing something that could ultimately end up hurting you. That's what I'm worried about more. All right. We don't have to be the only game in town. We're not the only game in town. I just mentioned America's Frontline Doctors. Okay. We don't have to be the only game, but we want to help people. We don't want to gouge people. We don't really want to charge people, period. In fact, we want to donate to your legal fees should you need that. Okay. As funds allow. But that's why we need more funding to come in so we can build up that legal fund and we can help all of these people, these thousands of people from around the country that are reaching out that need help. We want to be able to support them. And if the worst case happens, to be able to help them bring a lawsuit. We can't do that without your support. So please consider joining the Commit to 10 campaign today and telling 10 of your friends and family members, hey, maybe more than 10 if you are so moved. So thank you so much for your time and attention tonight. I really, really appreciate it. I know this was kind of a last minute thing late on a Sunday night, but I really just felt moved. I felt it was important for me to come on and say this tonight. And God bless all of you. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you again soon.